Good morning, Becoming Eva audience. This is Latoya Moore and Maya Dawson, and we're your hosts. Today, we are recording our last episode of
Oh,
season one. It's been a bittersweet journey. We, you want to tell them about the title of our episode
yes.
today?
Yes. We went back and forth trying to figure out what do we want our last episode to be about. So we are actually going to be doing a season in review where we're kind of talking about our, episodes that got most views and interest and what we've learned on the whole journey. So with that being said, it's cheers to season one.
Yay! Cheers to season one.
So if you're
Yes.
watching and you want to get your little sip on too, feel free. This is not
Yes.
alcohol, of course,
Yeah,
but
this is not alcohol either.
we still got it in a pretty glass. We got to, do what we
It's my
can.
orange pineapple apple drink from Welch's.
This is my sparkling apple cranberry cider. So I'm very excited about it. Very tasty. I'm here for it all day. So it has been a journey, Toya. It has been an absolute journey, but I'm so glad we jumped. I'm so glad we jumped together. And I'm so glad that we did this. We made it to the end of our first season and hopefully the first of many, many more to come. So how are you doing these days? How was your week?
This week was stressful, of course. Homeschooling, working from home, watching the two youngest ones, trying to entertain them. I've been pulling up Sesame Street, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, all the old school classic educational shows to kind of help me manage the two younger ones. And still doing the ABC Mouse and reading, of course.
Very good. Very good.
This week, Ryla, my oldest daughter, she had to build a bird feeder. So
fun.
Finally, the conclusion of this bird unit. I'm so tired of learning about birds. So she had to do this big research project, and she picked a woodpecker. So she sketched it out, and Ryan helped her build this bird feeder.
I love
out
it.
of stuff you can find in your house. And so she had a ton of fun working with her dad on her bird feeder, and she was so proud of it. And we're gonna put it on the porch later on and put some water in it. But she was so excited about it.
That's awesome. So, I bet that was good daddy-daughter time too. I love it.
Yay. So it's been getting a little bit better. Finally, her teacher has scaled down some of the work. So now it's a little bit more manageable. At least we finish at like 2:00 in the afternoon as opposed to like finish at 2, come back and do some more in the evening. Like we've been able to manage it a lot better this past week. That's good. So
thankfully.
They are getting better.
Yeah. My goodness.
How are you doing over there?
Kudos. It's been a rough week, man. Rough week. Busy week work-wise, and just a lot of meetings and a lot of conversations. I was just like, oh my gosh, it's been a full week. And then on top of that, my back started hurting. So I was like thankfully my chiropractor was an essential. So I was like hopping in the car with my mask, like I need an adjustment ASAP. So I've been iced up all week, propped up all week. My husband been helping me. I was like, this is a mess. This is an absolute mess. So if I look a little awkward this morning, it's because I'm literally propped up with an ice pack right now. But God is faithful. He is faithful. Yeah. I'm here. I made it. So yeah, but it's been a full week, but I'm grateful for the weekend and just the opportunity to chill for a minute, catch my breath.
Yes. So. Yeah. I hope your back feels better soon.
Me too, girl. You don't realize how important your back is, or your body for that matter, until it's like, okay, something isn't right here. So yeah, but it's all good. It's all good. We're nursing back. We'll be back in a little bit, I'm sure. So yeah. So season one, We had a lot of ups, we had a lot of downs, we had a lot of things that we learned, we had a lot of challenges. So let's talk a little bit about that. What I would say, first of all, let's start with impactful episodes because, for those of you that may or may not know, we're on multiple platforms. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on the podcast app. We post on Instagram and Twitter to help promote, but you can actually get the entire episodes usually on Facebook, YouTube, and of course the podcast app. So we kind of did a little bit of research to see what most viewed episodes were. And where do you want to start? Which platform you want to start with, Toya?
Well, first I want to talk about the most impactful episode to me personally.
Okay.
For me, the most impactful episode was the very first one.
Oh,
Who is Eva.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was the most impactful to me was because it was seeing like the vision of God coming, into fruition, and I can see it being played out from the vision that I saw in my head to it becoming a reality. So
awesome.
It was amazing just to kind of see how it all came together in a short, 6 months after I saw the vision. It was like 6 months later, and then bam, here we are becoming Eva. And it was a little surreal, getting in front of a camera and talking and, with our banner, our logo, just everything comes together, and just really, truly learning how to have faith and put some action behind it and trust and jump, like you said, taking a huge leap of faith. And we may not have a whole bunch of listeners right now, but I'm just thankful that I was faithful.
Yes.
The vision that God gave me. So what about you? What was your most
courageous and bold? Yeah. I mean, seriously, I'm just, my aunt who was in the studio that day with us, she was like, Maya, you were just enamored with LaToya that day. You were like in awe. And I was like, I was because I felt like I was just watching this flower blossom and grow and just like, oh my gosh, look at Toya, like fly. So that's, but that was a great episode. And even just sharing, like you were saying, the vision behind the podcast, the revelation behind the name, all of that. So I would say for me, probably my most impactful was probably one of the ones we got the most views on, but I would say for different reasons. For me, the most impactful one, I think, was the one that we did with our husbands, Meet the Moores and Meet Dawsonville, because I just felt like butt naked on that episode. I felt like this is like some real exposure here, like just, hearing the stories that were told and shared. And I remember feeling after that episode. Exactly. And so by the time we got to the end of the episode, I was texting my friends like, oh, what did you think? Oh my gosh, did we look crazy? What did they say? What did I say? What did he say? Like, it was just crazy. But at the same time, I feel like I learned after that episode that people value honesty. They value truth. They value vulnerability and transparency, and they appreciated the stories. Like the fact that we both shared some really great stories about our journeys together. So it was very exposing, but I think people really enjoyed it as well. So that was my most impactful one for the season.
Whew. So I was looking up the stats on YouTube and Facebook and kind of comparing which ones had the most views. And first, I'll talk about YouTube. The ones that had the most views were Who is Eva, the first episode. Beauty from the Inside Out. Rules of Engagement with Dr. Cassandra Bolar, and Meet the Moores and Dawsonville were the ones that had the highest most views on those. And I already talked a little bit about, the first episode, Who is Eva, women learning to find their voices in this new 21st century world, and just really diving into what a woman of God looks like in today's world. And then we had the vision board challenge in that in that episode, and we had people sending in their vision boards, and sometimes they were sending it in way past the time that we viewed the episode. So I think it'll be interesting to see how many more vision boards we see from that first episode.
Absolutely. And that's a great thing to even focus on now while we're under quarantine and everything. Like, this is a great time for self-reflection. This is a great time to revisit your goals, to revisit things that you want to pursue, even if you have to step back and kind of pivot, because in a lot of cases, you may not be able to do what you had planned to do. This is kind of a great time to reset and figure out, hey, God, like, how do you want me to move forward? So this would be a great time to do a vision board.
Right. And so the second episode was The Beauty from the Inside Out. And we focus on that one as beauty being defined as having self-confidence from within and letting it radiate out to others, and how our inner beauty is so connected to our outward beauty.
Yeah.
We had a lot of views on that episode. We touched on a lot of things about the characteristics of Christ and exhibiting the fruits of the Spirit, like kindness and self-control, love, joy, peace, patience. And we also touched a little bit about making sure that we see ourselves the way that God sees us. Because sometimes we don't always see ourselves the way that God sees us.
Yeah. And we touched on the external aspects of beauty too, which I kind of call it like was a landmine. It can be a landmine for women, just because I feel like women are very, image driven. We're very self-conscious, and even in some cases insecure when it comes to beauty, how we define it, how the world defines it, all of that. And then you throw in the whole women of color piece, like that's a whole big hot topic there, as far as you get dealing with complexion, you're dealing with hair, you're dealing with body type. I mean, there's just so many different things. And I feel like I had a conversation with a good friend about that episode because she had some really good feedback on it. And I just really feel like we scratched the surface on that. So I feel like we'll probably have to revisit that, and probably honestly have some really genuine conversations with other women in the community that, may look or feel differently about certain aspects of external beauty, because I really feel like that's an area where we as women need to be restored. We need to be healed, and we need to be unified, because I feel like media and, the commercial industry has done a great job of kind of pitting us against one another. If it's based on race, if it's based on complexion, if it's based on hair type, if it's based on body type, like there are just so many different ways that we as women kind of look at and judge one another. And I think it's, a real opportunity there for us to start building some bridges. So, but yeah, I'm amazed that is one of our most viewed shows, and to this day still get a lot of feedback on it. So
yeah. And I hope next season we will get to dive in a little bit deeper in that conversation. And like you said, bring some more guests to be a part of the show and interact and get their opinions on
some diversity.
Yes. Because it starts really at an early age when you start to develop that, what your perception of beauty is. It really does. Then the next most viewed show was Rules of Engagement with Dr.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
She was excellent.
Was so great. I still have to go back and listen to it sometimes too.
It's a couple
I've listened to it about 2 or 3 times already, and I pick up on something new every single time. But the first part of the show, she talked about the healthy rules of dating and courting and setting boundaries and communication and what it looks like when you're in an unhealthy relationship and steps that you can take to get out of unhealtzy relationships. And then she started talking about the marriage. She talked about rules of engagement as it relates to in the marriage, like nuggets that I remember using the I statements as opposed to the you statements, and just being intentional with spending time with your spouse and without your kids, if you have kids, and just making sure you're listening to one another, complimenting each other, and defining major purchases as far as like finances. So we talked about finances, how to budget, and it was a great episode. A lot of nuggets.
Yeah. And that one too, I mean, we actually did that episode out of necessity not necessity, I should say out of overflow from the dating as an independent woman, because there was so much there that needed to be talked about. And so just the whole aspect of healthy versus unhealthy relationships, defining that, what does that look like, I think is so important for women today, because I think oftentimes we can become so enamored or so driven by just wanting to be in a relationship, period, that we don't take time to assess and evaluate whether the relationship we're in is actually a healthy one. And that's so important, especially if you're seeking marriage or if you are married, because that is like supposed to be a lifelong partnership. And so you want to make sure that whoever you enter that covenant with is somebody that's, number one, worthy of your affection and of your devotion and your attention, but also that the relationship itself is one that's going to make you better and not worse. Right. I think, we kind of can get trapped sometimes into, believing certain things about ourselves, that aren't necessarily good, and they can be reinforced in unhealthy relationships if we don't have a sane estimate of who we are in Christ. So really just making sure that your life partner is somebody that, loves you with the love of God and sees you through the eyes of God is really, really important. And if you aren't in a relationship like that, what steps you can take to either get out of that relationship or grow in that relationship so that it can become healthy. So really, really good tips. Really good tips. Dr. Cassandra Bolar was on point. She was like dropping gems left and right. So it was really good.
We will definitely have to invite her back to be a guest in season 2.
Absolutely.
For sure. For sure. And then the next highest viewed episode on YouTube was Meet the Moores in Dawsonville. And you kind of shared a little bit about that one. But we mostly, like you said, shared our love stories, our journeys of finding each other, and shared our proposal stories and things like that. On to Facebook. Now, Facebook had some different shows that had higher views, and I think it was because sometimes the technology wasn't working right. So when we were able to get it working correctly, we had more views on some of the episodes, and a lot of time we weren't able to stream live to both YouTube and Facebook. We had to pick one or the other. And so YouTube, with the equipment we were using, had the better quality video. And then Facebook, a lot of times we had to use our phones, and the phones didn't really have the best quality view. But on Facebook, the self-love and self-care was one of the videos on Facebook. And that episode, we did a lot about talking about intentionally doing things to show yourself love. Loving yourself ties into taking care of yourself. And we talk about how important that is, and how you can also take care of yourself through the love languages. In that episode, we talked about the words of affirmation, speaking positive things over yourself, and not thinking negative thoughts and saying negative things. We talked about the acts of service, doing self-acts for yourself, scheduling in time for the gym, doctor's appointments. That was a big one. Make sure we're eating healthy, and creating an aesthetically beautiful home environment. And we talked about receiving gifts. So buying things that you love, buying yourself gifts, planning a vacation for yourself, things like that. Quality time, making sure you're spending time with yourself, setting out time for devotion with God, leisure activities, enough time for sleep and exercise, to make sure that we are staying healthy, and physical touch. You can even use physical touch on yourself by relaxing your body, by taking hot baths and using oils and lotions and manicure, pedicures, going to the spa, getting massages. There's a whole lot of things that we talked about in the self-care, self-love episode.
Yeah. And not just like the physical aspects, but like, what does it look like to care for yourself emotionally? What does it look like for you to care for yourself financially? We talked about, if you need to, make sure that you have regular time with a therapist, or if you need to make sure that you have a plan towards getting out of debt. Those are all aspects of self-care. And we had that awesome quote, which is actually posted on our page for you to kind of go back and look at. But yeah, that episode is near and dear to my heart, because I feel like I am actively pursuing self-care and self-love, because I want to make sure that I keep myself a priority, regardless of what task or projects or jobs or roles or responsibilities I'm taking on. So yeah, I loved doing that episode. I really feel like called to help people in that area. So I'm glad people enjoyed it. That's awesome.
A lot of women love self-care and self-love, or they want to know more about it. So I think that's...
because we're givers. We nurture so much, we got to learn how to replenish.
Yes. And then the next episode that had one of the highest views on Facebook was the Whole Woman episode. And I think that might have been our second episode of the season.
I think so.
But we focus on the work-life balance.
Yes.
And how I know I shared how I had to do some readjustments in my life in order to finally get to a place where I could feel like I was able to have a good work-life balance, because I was overworked in different areas of my life, with having 3 kids and a husband and working full time. At the time, I was the head volleyball coach and a science teacher, and building a family, like that's a lot. And so I had to do some adjustments and I had to do some therapy too, as well, to kind of figure out my life and how I could do some readjustments to make it make sense and make it work. Because it's easy to get wrapped up into taking care of your household and parenting and your normal job. And I believe that God wants us to reach our full potential, and in order to do that, we can't get caught up on the everyday hustle and bustle of life. So that episode was impactful as well to me.
Yeah, that one, the Whole Woman, I feel like that is, it's right up there for me with self-care, because, I spent a lot of time, in my 20s and even in my 30s, like really pursuing, for me, it was like career or ministry, like, to the point where I was neglecting myself. I was neglecting all my other relationships. And it really wasn't until life started to hit me, like, when I lost my mom, I started having health challenges, where I was like, hey, I need to reprioritize. Like, I need to put some other things, up at the top of the list besides work and besides ministry, and so really trying to find that balance. And even just the use of the word balance, like even now I'm learning that it's more so not necessarily, because I don't think we'll ever have days where everything is at an equal level, but it's a matter of prioritizing accordingly, and, not being afraid to focus on whatever you need to focus on in that moment, and of course, family is always going to be more important than work or career, or at least it should be. Yeah. But there are going to be times where you may have a project or something that's pulling you more in that direction, which is fine. If you need to focus on that in that season or in that time, focus on it. But it can't always be above your family. It should not always be above your family.
Above your family.
Yeah. So for me, it's really learning about prioritizing and then focusing. Like I remember priding myself on being a good multitasker. And one day my husband, in his lovely vulnerability, was like, "You're not a good multitasker." And his great truth telling, I was like, "Oh, great, thanks." I don't know how I should feel about that. But it really drove something home to me, where it was like, it honestly shouldn't be about multitasking. If we're going to do multiple things, we need to focus on one thing at a time so that we can give ourselves fully over to that and then move on to the next thing. If I'm at a game supporting my nephew, or if you are helping your child with your homework, that should be the focus in that moment, not becoming Eva, not your job or what have you. And then you move on to the next thing so that you can give your best to whatever you need to do in that moment. I even have to do that with work, period. If I'm like, okay, I'm answering emails right now, I'm not going to focus on this meeting that I need to prepare for until I have responded to this email, because it just kind of can cause you to not give your best to anything when you're, trying to do everything at once. Yeah. So that was a great episode.
Yes. So I learned some things about myself in this first season. I'm definitely a perfectionist, but I had to learn that I can only control what I can control. And I think I got better over time with how to kind of go with the flow when things weren't going right or going perfect, because everything is not going to go perfect, especially when you're using technology. Technology will not always work. There might be a storm, and it might take the internet out, and somebody might come crawling in on the floor in the middle of your episode trying to fix it, and like
i.e. Ryan, bless his heart. Thank God for Ryan. Yes, but go ahead.
Somebody might come crawling in the middle of your episode. You can't let that stuff throw you off, even though you're distracted by it. You're like, what in the world is he doing? This is his third time crawling in here in the middle of the show, and you try not to focus on that. But you just gotta roll with the punches. It was a challenge. Some episodes were more challenging than others, but I definitely learned to just give it over to God and say, I can only control what I can control. I'm here, I'm doing my part. So that's all I can do. Did you learn anything about yourself during the first season?
Absolutely. I definitely learned, or am learning, I should say, the art of compromise, the art of communication and working together. I think I have always been very independent, even from a child, was raised as the only child. And so I can work well alone. Like, I have no problem being alone or in self-isolation or what have you, and honestly, I can work with people, but it causes me to work a different muscle. And so I feel like I was definitely working that muscle, where we were just constantly just working together and trying to make sure we were in agreement, in alignment, in communication with one another, and so I thank you for being patient with me, because I know I can be critical at times. I know I can be super direct and, sometimes have no tact, whatsoever. And so
I'm glad you know that.
Thank you, Toya. Thank you.
I'll drink to that. I'm glad you know that.
Go ahead and drink to it. That's so funny, because it hit me when I wrote that letter and you texted me You were like, I was thinking to myself, what did she have to tell me that she had to write in a letter that she couldn't tell me like over the phone and to my face? And I was like, oh my God. Maya, you're critical. But yes, so thank you for being patient with me. Like, for real, for real. I am still working on my people and partnership skills and compromising and just trying to, yes, be a better person all the while. So thank you.
I love it. It's been a joy. No, for real, it has been a joy getting to know you better, more intimately, all the good, bad, and the ugly sides of everybody that has been involved in becoming Eva. What did you learn about me throughout the season? Oh,
wow.
Toya, you know how people always, I'll say this. People don't really know me, they come up with all these like prejudgments, misconceptions of who I am as a person. Oh, I'm stuck up, and just all these like crazy things.
I would have never said a stuck up. What? Okay, well, go ahead.
Well, maybe not you, but I'm just saying in general. That's usually the feedback that people will tell me. Like after they get to know me, they're like, "Man, like I thought you were this way and that way." Right. So I'm just curious. What did you learn about me?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. I think a lot of people, at least who don't know you, think that you're quiet, and by no means are you quiet. Like, by no means. And some people may think that if they perceive you to be quiet, that you are either shy or, what is the word? Passive, and you're not at all. Like, you definitely have opinions. You definitely have thoughts and you have a voice, that you're only privy to, that people are only privy to after they've gotten to know you. So that has been a joy, like getting to know you in that regard, getting to, learn more about your voice, and what your desires and your hopes and your dreams and even your challenges are, so I have definitely learned that about you. I have learned you do not play. Like my husband jokes. He jokes because when we're recording and if something doesn't go according to plan or you see something out the corner of your eye, you get that mama face like, who did that? What happened?
Who sneezed?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, shout out to my Aunt Carla. She was in the other room like, oh my God, I sneezed.
But Aunt Carla, like I said, I didn't think, I thought it was somebody else. Because, this was the time when the COVID stuff had just started popping off. And I thought it was Trey because he said he wasn't feeling good. True. And I was like, okay, who's coming? Who's coming? We're in the middle of recording the show. He's trying to walk in and he's sneezing. He better go somewhere if he's not feeling good. Turn around. That's probably why I cut my eyes in the middle of the episode. Because I was like, who is that?
You do not want to witness that. You do not want to witness that. I tell you, Toya is not playing. She's like, we going to get this right. We going to get it right. I was like, woo. Okay, but it's all good. I appreciate it. I definitely appreciate it. You are driven, definitely. So thank you.
And you are very, very talented. You're strong, articulate, so talented. And it's just been a joy to learn more about your story of perseverance through fighting through cancer and then coming out cancer-free and just still allowing God to just use you as a vessel and as a strong testimony. So it has been a joy getting to learn you. What did you learn about me through season 1?
Well, I would say, from afar, I won't say from afar, but before starting this journey with you, I will always think like, wow, Toya is really quiet, or, even in some cases, like shy or, soft-spoken or what have you. But I'm like, you're not that at all. Like at all. You have a voice, you have an opinion. I stopped because I thought Ryan was saying something. Do we need to keep going?
I think so. It's, I don't know. Hold on.
I heard him say something. That's why I stopped. I'm sorry. I was like,
We'll just have to edit that out.
Okay. But if we can keep going, we'll keep going.
I think we're still going.
Okay.
Yeah, let's start that segment over real quick.
Okay.
So we can edit it.
But I was gonna say, for those of y'all that don't know, Ryan is our behind the scenes producer. So he was talking in my ear for a minute. I was like, wait now. Okay. But before we started this journey, Toya, I really considered you to be like quiet and even kind of shy, but you are not that at all. You are like very outspoken. You have an opinion and you are not afraid to share it. And so it has been like awesome just seeing that side of you come out, because I mean, I don't think other people really, including myself, really knew that was there. So it's been awesome hearing your journey and hearing you share your story, you know. And then, of course, we cannot forget, and you alluded to this when you were talking about being a perfectionist. Don't do something crazy now, especially while we're recording. Toya will make that mama face in a minute and cause you to freeze, to stop in your tracks like, oh my gosh, what did I do? So all that to say, you have a very high standard, which is good. That's great. I mean, that's very good that you have a high standard, you know. And so, but yeah, don't mess with Toya. Don't mess with her.
You are hilarious.
I'm just saying. That's what I have learned. That is what I have learned.
Hilarious.
Is that not true though? But
I mean, maybe partially a little true. Partially. I can't help it. I cannot hide like my facial expressions. Like I've been working on that for years, and I just wear my emotions on my sleeves and I can't help it. I can't help it. I really, really try to like disguise it, but it doesn't really work very well for me. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
When I first started interacting with you and met you, I didn't really know really how to perceive you just yet. The most interactions that I was spending with you was during our J. Wives outing, or the Sunbeam outings, as we call ourselves. The Sunbeams. And so we would like, you know, go out to dinner, go to Pond City Market and kind of hang out, talk about our husbands and talk about my kids and just life in general. So I knew that you were a spoken word artist, and I had seen you perform. I knew that you were a singer. I heard you sing before, and I just knew that you were a very talented, you know, person. And I didn't know you, I guess, intimately. But getting to know you more intimately has been a joy, just to kind of see all of your talents and strengths and everything put together, and just kind of watch your journey from dealing with cancer and then overcoming cancer. It's just amazing to hear about your story of perseverance and how you overcame cancer and how you're still, you know, doing the things of God, and it's just amazing to like know you.
Thank you so much. So what have you learned about yourself on this journey?
For myself, I think I learned that, like you said, I am a type of fearless person. I'm not shy at all. I may not talk to people if I don't know you. I'm not like, you know, super outgoing and social butterfly like that. But if I know you and I get to know you, then I will talk to you, obviously. But no, I'm not one to go to a party and spark up a conversation with someone. That's not my personality. But I've learned to trust and not be such a perfectionist that I've just learned to just kind of go with the punches and relax and not really, just not really fear or be frightful of things that when things go out of order. So I just kind of learned to chill and relax on some things. Like we just had this technology hiccup.
I know, glitch, but it's
a couple of minutes ago, and I didn't like panic too much.
You did good. You did really good. It's all good. It's all good. So, whew.
So what would you say the highs and lows of the season were?
That's a good question. I would say the highs have been definitely, like you were saying, seeing everything come to fruition, like the things we had talked about, the things we had planned, the things we had hoped for, like really seeing those come to fruition, really hearing from people that have been impacted by the podcast or by specific episodes, hearing directly from them, that has been a high, just getting the support, more and more traction with each episode, more and more people viewing and watching and sharing feedback and commenting, like that has definitely been a high for me. And then, of course, getting to know you, like our relationship growing and being fortified in this process. I would say lows, probably all of our glitches, man. And I try to use them as a example or an opportunity to learn and to grow. Like, I feel like we've learned a little more about technology, maybe not a lot more, but maybe a little more about technology during this time, and just how to work through them, how to roll with the punches, as you were saying, and even with COVID-19 and having to self-quarantine and revamping how all of that looks, there were a couple of guests that we were trying to get on for these last couple episodes that we haven't been able to get on for you guys, but hopefully we'll be able to incorporate them in season 2. So I would say just, rolling with the punches and dealing with the glitches probably has been some of the lows for me. But yeah, what about you? What about your highs and lows this season?
Definitely highs, like you said, building the relationship with you and with the other people that have been a part of the Becoming Eva production team, and pushing past my comfort zone. Like I shared at the beginning, I'm not like a super talkative person when it comes to other people being around. Like if I'm in a work meeting or when I was in the classroom, I was never one to share my opinion, raise my hand, talk. I was never that person. Even though I had, opinions and things like that, I just never shared. I just not that type of person. So this has definitely been definitely out of my comfort zone and just really pushing myself to share. So that's been a high, just experiencing the growth, the personal growth for myself has been a high. It's been exciting, scary, crazy, all at the same time. Lows for me, definitely the technology glitches for sure. The technology learning curve has just been a challenge throughout the season. Learning how to work all of that equipment by ourselves. Without our, the Trackstars production team. So it's been a challenge, and then switching from the studio to recording at home using different technology. All of that has been a journey, but we're figuring it out as we go. Like we just had to stop this episode and start it again on YouTube, and my husband will piece it together for the podcast. So those of you that listen to the podcast, you don't get to hear all the mess ups and the mistakes, but for those of you watching the live stream, you get to see all the hiccups and mess ups, things like that.
That's why it's live. I mean, wow.
But I've learned to just smile through and keep it going.
There you go. That's awesome.
and not cut awesome. My eyes like you did. I'm working on that. I'm trying because I was like, the live stream just stopped. Oh,
I love it. It's all good. Okay, so this is our last episode we're going to take a hiatus during the summer and then come back in the fall. So do you have any plans for the summer?
I am working on finishing up my second book. I know we were supposed to do a sneak peek of it this episode, but with all the COVID-19 stuff going on, I'm just going to actually take time to really perfect it and make sure it is good to go. Yeah. And hopefully we'll do a in-person book launch once everything is up and running again, and we'll probably still do a virtual book launch. Those are some things that I've been thinking through and trying to figure out how to incorporate it. But I may just wait until everything's up and running before I do the virtual book launch. I haven't really decided. I'm praying on that. But I think it's better if I could do an in-person one first, then the virtual one. But I don't know. We'll see. Gotcha. And then just getting organized. Because right now I feel like my life is like not organized. Like with us being in the house all the time with the kids. A lot. Yeah. Working from home, like everything. A whole lot. It's not as organized as I would like it to be. Like I'm in my office right now, just looking around in my office. It just looks crazy. So it's a good thing, like, you know, you guys can't see what my office /closet looks like right now. But it looks kind of crazy, and I need to get it organized so that I can function in the fall when I go back to work. Yeah, that's real. What about you?
That's real. Wow. Yeah. I know this. I feel like the summer is kind of like shifting right before our eyes as we continue in the self-quarantine, because you just don't know like how long this is going to go and what the new norm is going to look like. So, you know, definitely we're still figuring it out as we go, trying to take it one day at a time and remind myself like, it's okay. You know, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have everything planned or mapped out, you know, but definitely trying to take advantage of the time that we do have home and now that life has slowed down a little bit more due to all of this. So I'm really trying to lean into, you know, knocking out some more things on my 40 for 40 list, you know, writing, you know, I'm working on a couple of things that need to be written. You know, there are a lot of different aspects. So there's a spoken word anthology that I'm planning to package and put out there, a grief devotional that I've started, a play, a book, all kinds of things. So just trying to, you know, inch closer and closer, you know, toward completing things and checking things off of my list. You know, started gardening around my birthday time, so I'm looking forward to harvesting and seeing what comes out of that, you know, but just, you know, trying to put my time to use, my extra time to use, you know, and maximize it to the best of my ability. So a lot of writing, a lot of reading, a lot of spending time with friends and family, and, you know, just trying to grow and learn along the way. So we shall see.
Yes. So I wanted to take some time to give out some special thanks to some people that helped make this Becoming Eva possible.
Absolutely.
So first, I want to shout out to my husband, Yay! Ryan Moore, or Ryan Righteous of Track Stars. He has been my cheerleader.
Absolutely.
You know, cheering me on, even when I was kind of doubtful at first when I told him, and I was kind of hesitant to even tell him about the vision. He was pushing me and like, you can do it, you know, and like, yeah, I can help you. That's what I do. I'm Ryan Righteous. I'm Track Stars. I'm a radio show person. You can do it. Like, just cheering me on. He's been editing the podcast for us weekly.
Yes.
And now, since we've been doing this from our homes, he spent hours on YouTube researching the technology and how to record from home, and editing the YouTube videos most recently. So I just want to say thank you, Ryan Righteous.
Yes.
Wonderful spouse. I also want to shout out to my sister Sierra and her mom Sharon for bringing her to the studio, and to her dad Ron for bringing her to the studio. Sierra has been awesome throughout the season. She's edited the show for us. Several of the episodes on YouTube. So I want to thank Sierra, and Trey has been awesome in the studio, part of our production team, and Sean. When Trey wasn't there, we were calling Sean and FaceTiming Sean, and he was cooking breakfast, taking trying to walk us through how to work all the equipment in the studio. Definitely want to thank.
Even before that, though, he did our photo shoot. He got our website up, like
the video, really. The promotional video, all of that stuff. He has been such a blessing. He's so very, very, very talented. Very talented man. I also want to thank guests, all the guests that have came to our show, Dr. Cassandra Bolar, Pastor Niel Zimbro. And you want to shout out some of our guests too?
Absolutely. Of course, we gotta give a shout out to Rhonda Jones, our financial advisor, who came and dropped some nuggets. She was phenomenal. I think we hit all of our guests in addition to our husbands. I'll definitely shout out my husband, Chris. He's been awesome behind the scenes. A lot of the strategizing and everything that you were talking about beforehand that we did in mapping out the show, we do that together with a lot of recording artists. And so he's very creative, genius, visionary, and so when we were trying to strategize on what our audience looked like, or when we were trying to strategize on what our demographic should be, and what the name of our show and podcast and all that stuff should be. He was very instrumental in helping to brainstorm with that, was there with me every single week at the studio, providing feedback and support and encouragement and insight, behind the scenes as well. So really, really grateful to him for that. And just being like you were saying, a cheerleader. I'm not a stranger to being out in the forefront, but this is a different season for me. And so he's been really helpful in just trying to, help me get back out there, if you will, because it's been a while since I've been in the forefront. And so he's been really encouraging as far as that's concerned as well. So definitely shout out to my husband. My cousin, Journey, she came every week to the studio.
Journey.
Behind the scenes, helping with production, making sure the audio was right, making sure we were live streaming from Facebook, that we were on YouTube, all of those good things. And then gave really great feedback behind the scenes as far as show topics and questions and things that we should address and talk about. So I'm just really, really grateful that she was able to commit to helping consistently during this time. Her mom, my Aunt Carla, I thank God for her as well. She was there supporting and cheerleading every step of the way, and retweeting and reposting and telling everybody, go here, check this out, do this, so she's been awesome as well. Just really, really grateful. So I want to say, I'll give a shout out too to Damon Peoples. He actually is the person that did our graphic, our logo, our step and repeat, all that great stuff. So shout out to him, and just, everybody that came along and supported the Sunbeams of Jada, who gave us show ideas and topic ideas and was like, hey, you know, as soon as we decided we were going to do this, like, how can we help? How can we support? What do you need? You know, so definitely shout out to Alfie Grant, Crystal Ricks, Jada Miles. Like, definitely, we appreciate you all support.
Yes.
Gosh, is there anyone else that you can think of?
I just want to also give recognition to our listeners. I know we've had some faithful listeners listening to our show. Not that we have a ton of followers or a ton of listeners, but there are a few people that consistently listen and give us feedback, like Mache. Mache Wilson is a faithful lister, and we want to shout you out and thank you for all of your feedback, and you are definitely in our prayers. Mache just recently lost her father, so Becoming Eva community, just keep Mache uplifted in your prayers. Also, Adrienne Pettit, I saw her on the YouTube chat earlier. Saying what's up. And so she is a faithful listener. So Adrienne Pettit wanted to shout you out. And just all the consistent listeners that always listens to our show. Just remember to share it with other people that you know. We thank you.
To the Track Stars universe too. There are several people in the Track Stars universe that have been like posting and reposting, you know, things that we put out there. So we're appreciative of that. I think of Damien Say, I think of Rustlin, I think of Prophet Josiah, just a lot of different people that have really kind of gotten behind us and said, hey, we've been waiting for the Wives of Track Stars to do something like this. And so they've really been behind us promoting every step of the way. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you. And if we forgot your name, please forgive us.
Charge it to our head, not our heart.
Not our hearts.
Yes, please. We love you.
So our Becoming Eva challenge, please make sure you join our Becoming Eva or our BE community Facebook group that we recently started, and like her page. We'll be putting information in our group throughout the summer to help kind of plan for season 2, asking questions. We want to design more feedback and more engagement so that we're making sure that we are hitting on all the topics that are relevant to the BE community. Did you want to say anything else about the?
We want to keep in touch, you know. I mean, I know that it's, you know, a bit of a hiatus between season 1 and season 2, but we want to keep in touch, and we really want to spark those conversations. You know, we talked about maybe even doing like a book club or something together, but we want to basically keep the conversation going, if you will. And then, like Toya was saying, we value your feedback. So if you have any thoughts or ideas about things that you want us to address in season 2, then that would be a great way to share it as well. So definitely join our private group, Facebook group, the BE community, and let's get the conversation going. Let's keep it going.
Yes. So season 2 will start near the end of the summer. So don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on the podcast app. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook at Becoming Eva, that's one word, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Becoming Eva Today. See you soon.
Cheers.